like to contact the show, send us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com or get involved in the conversation on social media. Join the Pearl Jam Podcast community group on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at liveonfourlegspod.
So I just... It a couple of us, there's, I don't even know what to say, but, and away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Fucking camera in the truck. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Everybody now, welcome to Live on Four Legs, a definitive live Pearl Jam podcast. And as we now have dates for the 2025 tour, a first little spring leg of 5 different locations, 10 shows. We're very, very, very excited for that. We are still working here at reliving some of the best of 2024. And last week, we obviously talked about part of the May tour in that Vegas show that was very good. And now we're here to continue to tell the story of the year. And I think that's the most important aspect of all this. Of course, the shows are very good, but you want to tell the story of what happened and how it happened and why it happened. And although Europe was just, it was rough. It was very rough. We know what happened. There was a vocal injury, and we're going to talk a lot about that with Ed. And they did 2 shows. The Dublin show, he had a little trouble, but Manchester, he really struggled during. They canceled 1 in London and 2 in Berlin after that. And then it was all systems go 10 days later for this Barcelona show. And this is what you guys picked as the one to cover. And I don't think that there really is another option for us to do if we're talking about the shows of the year that need to be discussed, because this is the story. This is part of Pearl Jam. And a lot of people will come into this thinking that this is a story of another sign of the beginning of the end. But in actuality, it's a story of resiliency. And even before kind of recording this, my mindset is usually if Ed keeps getting sick, then it's just kind of going to continue to deteriorate. But we are going to talk to somebody. Her name is Alison. Got to know her in Philadelphia, and she's terrific. She knows what she's doing. She is a speech profession, and she's going to tell us all about what is happening with Ed and how, after long periods of time, how the vocal cords are affected when you're singing in a rock band like that. And it's going to open your mind. It's going to be fantastic. So why not just jump into all of it? Because we got a lot to cover today. Another great 2024 show. Randy Sobel over here. Javier Hervras over there. Guru, what's up?
How's it going, my friend?
Hey, it's great. And, we have you as a guru, and then we kind of have a voice guru coming in today too. So, it's really the meeting of the minds here. I don't know what I have an expertise in, but it's definitely not podcasting if it's anything. Maybe it's just being a schmuck, but we have literally two experts that are on this podcast at the same time, and that blows my mind.
Thank you for calling me an expert. I think I just geek out about a bunch of stuff that maybe not a lot of people geek out about, but I'm very intrigued just to hear what she's going to say, because physiology, anatomy, and how everything works within the human body is absolutely fascinating. And I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation that is going to provide us a new perspective, because whenever we hear that kind of news, it's always kind of like freak out. This is the end. What are we going to do? This is the end of the world. And maybe we're going to learn something that actually is going to give us a little bit more of hope and reassurance more than anything else.
I have a good feeling that it will, because nothing from positivity. Alison is such a positive person that I know what her stance is about this, but I think that you guys will be shocked at what you guys will learn. But before we get to her, I think we need to kind of talk a little bit about what happened and how it all happened. And as I mentioned, Europe has kind of been the Achilles heel for them. You go all the way back to 2018, the first real incident of, wow, Ed's voice is starting to go, as you would say, was the London situation. And they do a show in London. It's a night one show. And that is a rough show. Ed is having a really tough time, just barely able to get through it. And then the show the next night is canceled. And there's a lot of, I woke up because obviously the show's in London and the announcement of the rescheduling was very early in the morning. So I remember waking up and just being in bed like, are we like the distance to the end closer now than it ever was? Like, I wasn't saying that, but, I mean, that's a hindsight thing. But it was tough. It was a tough thing to grasp onto, that your hero, the person that you've literally been following around the world to go and bank on getting entertained by, is there going to be a point where he can't do it anymore sooner rather than later? And all these thoughts go into your head, and obviously you get to days later and they still go back out there and they still do shows and he starts to sound pretty good again and everything's okay. But there's still this like little lingering thought in your head that, oh no. And then as the years go on, we get what happened in Paris. 3 cancellations after that: Prague, Vienna, and then one of the Amsterdam shows. And then we get Indy. And then we get this. So that's a lot more than just one-off instance. And it kind of sets a little bit of panic into your brain that, what does this band have to do in order to survive this?
It is fascinating to me just to think about when I was a kid, like you said, like, I mean, these guys are part of your upbringing. And for me, musical heroes, people who, some of them I got the opportunity to get them to know in person as well, but they pushed me to be a better guitar player or even a better human being. And to see that they will struggle with maybe things that you will think they will never struggle, because having that image of somebody being fragile and being sick and not to be able to perform or, like you said, or entertain, is very conflicting. I think a lot of the fans feel like you're a hero, you're our superhero. Like, there's no way that this can happen to you, but it has happened many times in the past couple of years. And I remember that the conversation turned to a point where we were thinking, like, how is the future going to look like? I remember also that the conversation was like, is the band going to start to play everything half down tune? Like, you remember that everybody
Yeah.
was kind of like doing that. And I think they ended up showing us that actually it's a story about not failure, it's a story about resilience. And this tour, yeah, was a little complicated, especially the Europe portion. But now I think the band ended up sounding absolutely outstanding. And hopefully we're going to learn so many good things about our interview with Alison. And we're going to learn that maybe there's still a lot that we can enjoy from them.
I think you're 100% right. And a lot of what we're about to figure out here is going to be comforting. And just this Barcelona show in general. We're going to say it to Alison. We're going to talk to her about it. But the first two songs coming out of the gate is a statement of we can do this. We're not dead. Don't count us out. When we come back, we're going to come back strong. All right, so now let's introduce to the podcast somebody that I got to meet in Philadelphia. And if you're paying attention this week, I will probably at some point, if not already, release my Philadelphia documentary of the time that I spent in Philly. And it's going to feature a lot of great Philly things, like going to City Field. Yes, I know it's not actually a Philly thing, but it was part of the trip. It has to be there. I have some fun with it, and you'll see, and some stuff, of course, before the show. And then it was my birthdays. We did record shopping and stuff like that. And then we had that event that had the Spectrum S, and we did the Spectrum Memory podcast and stuff like that. It's all in there. It's very, very good. But one of my favorite parts is when I met my new friend Allison, and she was introduced by my friend Amy. I think a lot of you know who Amy is. And when we talked, I think Allison noticed that my voice was definitely not at 100% because if you hear me on the podcast, you know what I sound like. So this whole entire time, she's helping me out. She's giving me tips to blow through a straw and open up my vocal cords. And I had never thought to do anything like this before. And she's opening up my whole worldview to something completely new, completely different. She is a vocal coach. She understands it all. And I think to give some perspective on what Ed was going through during this time, I can't think of anybody better to introduce into the show than Allison, especially right now. A Pittsburgh girl getting her Pittsburgh shows. I think we're riding on high here. So, welcome to the podcast. I can't wait to talk to you and hear what you have to say about this. And I hope this isn't the last time you're here because I feel like we're about to get a great amount of information thrown on top of us.
Wow, that is quite a welcome. Thanks so much, Randy. I'm so excited to be here. I don't know, I hope I can live up to the hype. You're a good hype man.
I kind of surprised myself. I didn't know I had that in me too. Usually it's just like, well, here's a friend I know, and their name is that, and that's how it happens. But you got me at a good moment, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, we had a little time to warm up because we got to talk about how excited we are about the tour announcement and what shows we're putting in for and
Mhm.
Pittsburgh and just all the good things, right? So we did have a little time to warm up. Maybe that's it.
You could say we had a vocal warm up.
We truly did. We absolutely did. Most definitely. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I can't wait to get into this discussion because this is one of those things where when this happened, and obviously we know that this is a trend that goes back to 2018, where Ed has had some vocal struggles. And as you age and as you get older, I think it is just part of life. It's part of rock and roll. It just happens. It's like drummers and getting arthritis. And as we kind of move on here, again, this has happened every big tour year, I should say, since 2018. We've had something happen. I want to know to start off with, as you get older and you're putting that much pressure on your voice for the entirety of not just your career, but your life as well, because obviously when he's young, his aspiration is to do this. So he's utilizing so much power within his voice from a very early age. And then you have 1995 Ed, which is just, I mean, throw caution to the wind, as we all know.
Right.
And as you get older, it's just the rock star way. So, how do you maintain your voice in order to continue to have a career like this?
Such a good question. So many valid points you already made about like just the pressure and the way that Ed's voice is his instrument. It is his livelihood. It is something that he uses in ways that are very different than you and I use our voices. And you have a pretty high vocal use kind of gig, even being a podcaster. And any career that has a lot of vocal use well, I should say it could put you potentially at risk for having a vocal injury just from overuse. I cannot tell you how many overuse injuries that I've heard about. They pop up because guess what? As you get older, everything's more vulnerable. And even if you're not a singer, though, the vocal mechanism, it definitely becomes more vulnerable. So, aging in men, especially, for some reason, more so than women, there starts like some calcification and hardening of the cartilages that are surrounding the vocal cords and lack of flexibility. And singing, of course, requires a lot of flexibility. There are many changes that happen that you might just hear someone get older and their voice becomes a little bit deeper, or it could become a little breathier, like they don't have as much power. It could become a little hoarser or even sounding a little more strained. And that's because age alone impacts our voices for elasticity of all of those parts and pieces that have to work together to make our voicing. Over 100 muscles are working together in very precisely coordinated movements. Can you tell I geek out on this a little? um,
Hey, but you
yeah,
know what? We invite the geeks on. I mean, we have a gear guru, we have the voice queen. I got to
I
think
like
of a
that.
better name for you, but the voice queen will stick for now.
I like that. I'll
But
take it.
yeah, we
And
all need
yeah.
to be experts here at something.
Well, yeah, it's fascinating to me because then there's the breathing that is a huge foundational skill for voicing. And if you really think about it, we just talk and we just breathe. Those of us who don't take into consideration what sorts of fitness and hygiene and work we have to put into keeping our voices healthy. 'Cause we're just regular folks, but someone like Ed or an opera singer or any kind of performer who relies on their voice, it requires a lot of maintenance and things like illness and age and injuries, and also singing in a really bad, unhealthy environment like Paris. Those kind of things can come together to create a perfect storm that can create some problems.
So, with that all being said, looking at how Ed has aged throughout all this and looking at how some other rock stars, and I think when we were talking before, the name Axl Rose comes up, and
Mhm.
that's a rough one. That's an
Sure.
example of you have not taken good care of your vocal flexibility. As he's aged and kind of has gone to this point where we've called the golden era of Pearl Jam, how do you think has his voice has matured and stabilized into the way that somebody at his age should be performing with?
Well, I will say that I think as passionate fans, we are really fortunate that Ed has probably surrounded himself with a really good team of people so that when those occurrences have happened, like going back to 2018 with those cancellations, which you and I talked about how they got back quicker back then. He was a bit younger. They took a little bit less time off than, all of those shows that were the most recent cancellations. You have to kind of take that into consideration because it takes more time to bounce back at older ages. So I think that it was wise for them to cancel and to cancel giving the fans enough notice more like I feel like those things are important and sometimes we have to know by trial and error, right? Because we talked about the Amsterdam show, how it was so disheartening for all those folks who, I mean, they were already let in the arena and found out that the show got canceled. I think that erring on the side of caution is a great way to approach this moving forward. And as fans, we need to be prepared. If we want our band to continue to do what they're doing and doing it as well as they are doing, putting on these incredible shows that we are all walking away from and freaking out about, listen to them sounding so tight And as a unit that I think they're backing each other up, they're controlling what they can control. And I especially think Ed learned so much from Paris when he was on stage, and I can't remember what show it was when he came back and he showed on the video screens his voice doctor and how excited he
Yeah.
was to see his vocal cords and just singing his praises. I have a feeling that that was a big wake up call because I know in 2023, when I was in St. Paul, Ed was very proud to talk about how he was doing his vocal exercises in the shower with his eucalyptus oil. And he made the joke about how Simon Le Bon was also in the hotel and singing with him. I don't know if you remember that. He told a funny story because
I
Duran
do.
Duran was playing. Yeah. So
Yep.
he's said things like that, which I think he's taking care. I really do. Because he sounds like he is.
This band is very, very dedicated to their craft.
For sure.
And you've heard stories of Ed, and when you get older, obviously you have to keep yourself in good shape. It's almost like you have to train like an athlete
Oh, yeah.
to be up on stage for all that time. And Ed talks about how he got this from Chris Chelios, where he put a stationary bike in a sauna in order to do a workout. And that's part of a routine that he did.
Oh, that's so cool.
And
I never
it's,
knew that. That is so cool.
mhm. And it's just the little things that you have to do to train. It's just another job. I've seen videos from I guess a couple of years ago now, because they're not going to be around anymore. But Zach De La Roca from Rage Against the Machine was doing CrossFit. He was doing CrossFit training, and it's unfortunate what happened with him because he had a major injury on stage. But that was the kind of training, because when you get up there in your 50s and 60s, you can't just go up there and do it anymore. And
Yeah.
the voice is no different. It's another organ. It's another working part of your body that I think people just kind of take for granted because it's there every day.
And if you want to sing well, you are a vocal athlete. Oh,
Mhm.
and just to clarify too, I am not exactly a singing expert. I want to clarify. I'm a speech pathologist and I'm a voice therapist, but I'm not a vocal coach. I do work with singers. I rehab them from vocal injuries, but as far as even the many tools out there that vocal coaches and vocal trainers use, I know that there are certain skills and certain ways to train singers for longevity that even go beyond my area of expertise. I have worked with singers who have lost their voices, and my goal has been to, first of all, help them heal the vocal mechanism and then rehabilitate and then teach them all those things that they need to do to try to recognize when they need to take a break. Rest is so huge. There are exercises that need to be done. There is maximum hydration that needs to be done and controlling of exposure to lots of bad things for your voice, like smoke inhalation and even alcohol, which dehydrates you.
Mm.
You just need to drink more water or non caffeinated things when you are experiencing some vocal trauma. So there's a lot of vocal hygiene out there that's really important. Even people like Taylor Swift, didn't I hear that she was running on a treadmill singing her entire set list for her Eras shows to like have the
I
stamina?
I didn't know that, but yeah, I mean, she has 4-hour shows,
Yeah. Makes
so she
sense,
has to
right?
do something. Mhm. So when referring to these shows, Ed catches a case of bronchitis when he's out in Europe, and you can kind of tell in Dublin he's a little bit short-winded. In Manchester, it's just he really doesn't have much of anything. The songs are broken up. He's really trying his best, but it's unfortunate to hear. And they have to cancel, and they do the right thing. It's not like you said with Amsterdam. They cancel pretty much well ahead of time. Unfortunate for the fans out there, but it's part of life. You're not going to go throw out somebody not at close to 100%, which is unfortunately what happens at Manchester. They want to try and make it happen.
Right.
But 10 days go by and they perform this show that we're talking about in Barcelona. And the first thing that they come out with and open with is a song where Ed needs to use his breath, maybe more so than others. and that's playing the harmonica in a song like Footsteps.
Right.
And the second song is a song where maybe he stretches his vocal cords more than a lot of other songs in the catalog. Nothing Man.
Nothing Man. Yeah.
And he sounds terrific on both of these songs. So, in that amount of time for that kind of illness, is that almost like, I don't want to call it a miracle for something like that to happen, but is that a testament to just how focused he is and how dedicated he is to his craft to make sure that he comes out of all this 100%? Because I don't think before the show I would have thought that that were the case. I thought it would have been like, okay, let's build our way there, let's ease our way there, but he comes out and he's red hot.
Oh, yeah. That was unexpected. That was a bonus. That was huge. I wouldn't have necessarily expected that. I mean, what a gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are lots of factors, one of which is what you said about his dedication to his craft, not to speak unkindly of Axl Rose, but there's a huge difference right there between Ed and maybe some other vocalists. And I know he probably learned a lot from Paris. If you remember in the press release or whatever was announced when they had to cancel, the words used were he has no throat. So
Mm.
terrifying. I was devastated. No throat? What does that even mean? You know? And I'm in this field of voice and rehab, and I'm thinking the worst. I guarantee you that he knew how imperative it was to rest because with bronchitis, that's no joke. Your body's exhausted from having bronchitis to start with. Secondly, you have breathing, which is the foundation of singing efficiently. Bronchitis impacts efficient breathing. So you have all of these other symptoms that can happen with it, like inflammation in your respiratory tract, in your vocal tract. You can have forceful coughing because of all the crud and production of mucus and things like that. And unfortunately, coughing and throat clearing also are very damaging to the vocal cords, believe it or not. And it causes more mucus and more irritation of the vocal cords. You can have weakness for your volume because, like, you just don't have the strength, and you might have some breathiness, and your vocal cords can get kind of like uncoordinated a little bit, like they're not really squared up. So that's where exercises like that straw exercise I had you do in Philly and having a repertoire of things for healing were really important. And I have a feeling Ed was doing a lot of those things. I'm sure he was doing exercises. I'm sure he was not speaking unless he had to. I'm sure he was staying extra hydrated. I'm sure he was running a humidifier at night, perhaps. These are things I'm guessing. Everyone's body's different, and his voice has been vulnerable. Who knows? There could be an insurance policy on that voice, like J Lo's booty.
Mm.
Who knows? I mean, what would we do without Ed's voice, right? But whatever he's doing, I'm really glad he's doing it because I think that that outcome was the best we could have possibly ever hoped for. And good on him and good on the people he has surrounding him.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this because it is so fascinating and it just opened up a lot of my worldview on this because there were so many discussions that were happening over the summer of like, oh well, this and this and this, and I was worried. I was worried about
Sure.
sort of the future, and if this stuff keeps happening every year, then we don't have this. And I think that you've reassured for me and hopefully for the people listening that the way he's taking care of it is what's important. It's the things are going to happen. If it happens, it happens. It's with age, but the way he's taking care of things means that it can hopefully go on as long as we want it to. And I think that gives me a lot of reassurance right there. So thank you so much for joining us. I am hoping, because it is a request that we have for the year 2025, that Amsterdam show will come back up. So when it does, I would love to have you back on again and talk about that.
I would be honored. That would be awesome. Yes, thank you. And thanks
Of
for having
course.
me. Like, I'm glad you feel encouraged. And I hope everyone out there understands more about complexity of it, and also feels encouraged that even if a show or two needs to be canceled, we don't all have to panic. Canceling a show or two might be what is contributing to the longevity of the excellence of this band.
I love that you put it that way, because for anybody else that might be sitting and think about this beforehand, that might be like, canceling a show is panic.
Right?
That's a means to the end, but I think we know that that's not the case.
For sure.
So we will see you in Pittsburgh. Definitely see you in Pittsburgh, and hopefully hear from you before then. Thank
Well,
you so much yet again for coming on and joining us.
thanks, Randy. Bye-bye.
So with the magic of editing, I know you didn't hear Javier's voice in that, but Javier can unfortunately not make that interview, but got to hear what happened on the tail end of that. So yeah, that was pretty fascinating, huh?
Yeah, I was not able to make it through the entire thing, but I had the opportunity just to listen to for a few minutes, and I was just like, wow, this is the kind of stuff that I need to learn and I need to know. And especially because the approach that she was able to take, it's very uplifting when somebody is telling you something that you're able to understand with the technicality involved into it. And you're not going to feel that you're like, I'm completely confused and lost and within all these terms that I don't understand. And it was great. I was able to listen a little bit at the end, and yeah, it was awesome.
I can't wait till we can get her back on here and talk about it again, because it's very valuable information at this time in this stage of Pearl Jam's career. So we'll keep at it with her. She's wonderful, wonderful human being, and I can't wait to see her. Hopefully, in both Florida, and definitely if I end up going to Pittsburgh. So I think we can jump into the set list now. And as mentioned, the first two songs in the set, statement songs. You don't want to come out there and come out like flat footed, and not like they would. Not like a release or something like that is considered flat footed, but you want to come out there and have enough of a curveball. Footsteps has been used as an opener a couple of times in the last couple of years, so it's not completely random, but it's enough to say, whoa, okay, maybe this is a kitchen sink kind of show. So Footsteps and Ed playing a very impressive harmonica is the start to the show.
Don't even think about reaching me. Oh, I won't be home. Don't even think about stopping by. Don't think of me at all.
And it's making the statement. It's just like, we're here and he's healthy again and he can perform again. And I thought that it was a very good choice to start with. Little detail, I love the little nuance that Mike is doing with a delay, kind of like chasing his own solo at the end.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty cool thing to start with. I was definitely like, okay, there we go. He's back.
That was in Fenway, the opener, night one. And I remember we were going around and listening to the sound check, and they played Footsteps. And it took me a little bit of time, but later in the day, I'm like, you know, I don't think they do that in the sound check if they're not opening. And bingo, they do it. And I wonder if this is now considered into the same kind of stratosphere as your Of the Girl, Sometimes, Long Road type songs, that Footsteps is now a part of that clan, kind of taken away from its maybe at some points encore role. Like think about the slow burn encore that we had in the Lightning Bolt tour. Footsteps was usually a solid part of that, but I like it in the beginning of the set. It's a good sing-along. Everybody's invested, especially a very strong crowd like Barcelona. Oh man, they are going to get worked very, very early on here, and they are going to be flawless. And Footsteps is a nice way to open up the floodgates. And then Nothingman and Present Tense are going to prove to you that this is no fluke. Nothingman, lung capacity here. He can let it all out, and it's not like he's coming back and he's feeling okay enough to go. He's coming back and he's being Eddie Vedder. Not just Eddie Vedder, Eddie fucking Vedder. He's being Eddie fucking Vedder on Nothingman.
She wants to believe in every story had to tell. One day she's defended and took the other side. Empty stairs from each corner of a shared prison cell. One just escapes and one's left inside the well. And he who forgets will be destined to remember.
Like no indication that he was sick in this performance of Nothingman.
Yeah, absolutely right. And Footsteps going into Nothingman is just, I think it adds that emotional layer too. Like, well, he's back, he's healthy, he's making the statement. You see, you hear that lung capacity, but I don't know. I think that this combo also adds a little bit of like the emotional element that you want to have in this show, especially if you're coming back after being sick and not being able to just deliver what you want to do while you're on tour.
And the crowd knows that. I think if the crowd is not invested in that storyline, maybe it gets tougher. Maybe you have to work for it a little bit. I don't think he has to work for it at all. It's not like he's going out there and doing a festival. This is a Barcelona crowd that is hungry for this. And you get to see some amazing shots because we have the video of this. And Javier and I actually did something. This is a new thing, and we hope that this become kind of a staple of how we're researching and taking in shows for the future. Is that Javier and I got on a Zoom and we watched the show together, the YouTube clip. So we were able to kind of go back and forth here. We basically mapped out everything we're going to talk about. And a lot of what you see that crowd, just everybody all into the sun, arms up in the air, and everybody singing along. This is a very, very strong crowd. Barcelona usually is, but I mean, magic has happened. Let's just put it that way.
A friend of mine actually was in both shows. Like, he's from Chile too. I was with him on 2016 at the Wrigley shows, and we were texting back and forth as well. And he was just like, you can really, really taste the energy of the crowd in both shows. Like, it was very, very uplifting because he thought that maybe the band was going to be a little bit more, maybe more weak, maybe not 100% there yet. But he said, even though that would have been the situation, it doesn't matter because the energy of the crowd was so high that they were going to grab the band and lift it up.
Yes. Yes. And again, like these first five before getting into Dark Matter stuff, top notch. Present tense. Now, there's a wild scene as Ed's like playing at that front tip of the stage. The crowd is hopping up and down, and it just feels like a very inspired version. It looks like at the end, Ed wants to smash his guitar into the ground. Like, they are just fired up to be back. But one of the things that we talked about that's just fascinating here, the booster. on Mike's guitar. What kind of change do you hear when you go from verse to chorus on the first go around? And how does that impact the song?
It is fascinating, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because historically, Pearl Jam is not a band that uses gain stage. Like, if you wonder what's that, gain stage is when you have multiple overdrives or distortions that sometimes one of them is going to be a little like softer, the other one is going to have like a better, more presence, or it's going to increase the attack of the instrument. And since they have been pushing towards maybe using more tech, like for example, Mike, as we talked before, he's using the Fender Toadmaster Pro, which is basically software based, and he's not using quote unquote real amps, right? But you can hear that break right before you get to the chorus, like Randy said, and it's a very noticeable change, something that we haven't heard in the past, and all of that is coming from that Fender Toadmaster Pro. So now he has actually 3 overdrives, a little crunch, middle distortion, and then full-on overdrive with that kind of like booster effect that he gets on. It really adds beef to the song.
You can spend your time alone, redigesting past regrets. You can come to terms and realize you're the only one who cannot forgive yourself. It makes much more sense to live in the present tense.
I'm glad we are doing a Barcelona show and you're here because you are a Swiss Army knife when it comes to the gear, but also you're bilingual as well. I don't know anything outside of Hola, ¿cómo estás? And a little bit else.
You'll
So,
learn.
And Ed does a pretty good job. He speaks in Spanish a couple times in the show. It doesn't sound like he does too bad. So what is he saying here before Given a Fly cuts him off and then after Given a Fly?
Yeah, because like Mike was getting too excited and he's like, no, hold a second, I'm not done yet. So he started with Bona Nit, which is in Catalan, it's like good night. Estamos muy felices de estar hoy aquí con todos vosotros en la cima de esta montaña, en una de las mejores ciudades del mundo, Barcelona. Las últimas semanas han sido muy duras para nosotros y hemos sufrido penurias y dolor. Hoy estamos entusiasmados de estar juntos de nuevo sobre este escenario compartiéndolo con todos vosotros. Hoy vamos a disfrutar del mejor show de nuestras vidas. So he's just saying, we're so happy to be here. We're so happy to be with you guys in the top of this mountain in one of the best cities in the world, Barcelona, if I say it right. Last couple of weeks have been very tough on us since we have gotten through some stuff and some pain. We're very excited to be together again in this stage, sharing this moment with you. We're going to have the best shows of our lives tonight. And that's when Mike finally can get into Given to Fly before the first attempt.
And Mike can do that. Mike can play the riff, but Mike has some accompaniment here too, because although we're not in South America, this is a Spanish crowd. Whoa, whoa, oh. It's fantastic. And I think it puts Eddie, like you can just see the smile on his face. He's jumping around. He's got his arms around. He's like doing airplane moves and stuff like this. He's having so much fun and he's emphatic after every single line. He's like, yes, like just excited and enthusiastic just to be on this plane and be there, because you got to think, if they play those 3 shows beforehand, this is another part of the tour. And yeah, you can get up and you can get excited for it, but you play Given to Fly, and Given to Fly is Given to Fly. It happens nearly every night. But to have this kind of energy towards it because everything that's happened in the last week and a half, it's a sight to behold. It's fun as hell to watch, and you can just tell Ed is on top of the world.
That was very fun to watch too, because when we were watching the recording, I can notice that both we were reacting over that too, or the camera. We were like, okay, this is good. We're both smiling, like kind of like getting that feedback from the energy from the recording. But I bet that they felt good, you know, just to get that immediate response from the audience, and you just like, okay, let's go, and you know that it's going to be a good show for sure.
So Small Town is going to come right after it, and yeah, Small Town has the crowd in the grasp of their hands. I think it would have put a halt into momentum, and it does a little bit. Like, it's not my favorite spot for it. I think they should have just ripped into the Dark Matter spot, and then maybe after Wreckage or React Respond, you jump into Small Town. But goes without saying, Small Town is going to be one that they react to and you get the crowd up in arms about. But I don't know if that's conscious decision to be like, okay, let's kind of keep balanced a little bit. Let's not keep going up. Let's have one song to just keep it evened out a little bit. But it's even when you say that, like, he doesn't sing high on Elderly Woman. Still, who knows the reason? But I will say that there were some cues that were missed during the end where, you know, he's kind of egging the crowd along to sing along, and then there's that fade away, and everybody just can't really find the timing for it. And that's not the last time in this show that happens, but the cue, Ed didn't quite hit it. While he's very excited and happy, I think he's just a little bit jumping the gun on that one.
Yeah, I think that was the one that Eddie, didn't follow the cue along at all. I mean, we have seen that in the past too, when he gets too excited sometimes, and maybe we're going to see it in Even Flow a little later on too.
Shall see. I think you're right. We move on. We're at that section now. Scared of Fear, React Respond. And it's good that we did the episode last week where we got kind of the earlier versions where you can kind of tell, okay, which ones they were really energetic about and really emphatic about very early on in this tour. I thought with last week's Scared of Fear that it felt like they were working with it. It felt like they were stiff on it a little bit and they needed to be loose in order to have fun. And this version of Scared of Fear is nothing but loose. You watch Mike all over the stage, like he's doing his pacing, his just dragging around, and that solo is very vibrant. And just when Ed is doing kind of the instance where he builds back up the voices calling, that whole bit, Mike is firing away in the background of that. Like, I could not get my ear off of Mike when that part is happening and building back up to the last chorus of the song. It's a tremendous version, and I don't know if I bagged on it last week by saying, like, let's get rid of the intro, and I still kind of believe that, but this Scared of Fear did so much more for me than what the fourth or fifth version of it did last week.
This one has the muscle that I think we were both missing last time. And like you said, you can feel that the band is very, very comfortable in the way that they're playing it right now. Something that I really like about Scare of Fear that I think it got better over time too is when you have that break, that reverb that Ed's voice takes and it fills the room. It's something new for them too, because usually Ed doesn't use a lot of like vocal effects or something like that, but now including that, it makes that part so interesting too. And then you get all the band right back at it, and like you pace up again, and it has a lot of muscle, and like the solo at the end was just fire. Like Mike was on top of that.
Yeah, I don't know what this has to do with anything, but Ed is wearing his hat backwards during this song, and that's something that when you think of like ballpark shows like Fenway and Wrigley, he puts on the Red Sox or Cubs hat and he puts it on backwards during the encore. And usually, if he's wearing a hat and it's, forward facing for the main set, because it's all business, 6th song in, backwards hat, Ed's feeling frisky. So that's the kind of version that we get for Scared of Fear. And Reacciona Risponde is another fantastic version of that. And I think what we talked about yesterday is the bass that Jeff was using, and just Jeff in general on this song. He's using a hammer. And I asked you, is this a different bass that he's using? Because it seems like it's newly painted, but it's the same hammer, same 12 string that he uses on songs like Jeremy, right?
Yep, that is correct. So a lot of people don't know this, but in between 1997 and 1999, there was actually a project for Hammer. They wanted to make some sort of like Jeff Ament 12-string bass, but it didn't work. So they ended up making a few for him. That those are the ones that he used in the stage right now. And if we go back to like the story with Andrew Watt, a lot of producers didn't want him to use that bass because it gets too microphonic, so it's kind of hard to record, or it seems to be a hassle when he's playing live. But Andrew kind of like pushed him to continue to use it because it's a very unique element of the Pearl Jam sound. And he's back at it. I mean, he's using it even more. Like you said, we have the examples of Jeremy, Why Go, Deep, Dark Matter, React, Respond. But it's a Hammer B12A that it was made for him. And he has a couple of those, and one of them is hand-painted, and the other one is fully black, like the one that we know in Jeremy. But I'm a fan of that bass. And if you don't like it, we're going to have an argument about this. No, you, Randy. But I think it adds a lot. And when you hear that bass, you know that it's Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam, and you can't deny that.
So Ed's speaking in Spanish here, but I think I can translate this one because he said this a lot on this tour. He jokes about the one-word titles early in their career, Once and Jeremy and Black and Oceans, and it's the same thing. That's the intro to Wreckage on this. It's no different. I don't have to do any other translation, right?
Nope, you're nailed it, because he kind of translated the same thing that he was saying before to a different language. That's it.
Yep. So Wreckage, Corduroy, Even Flow, fantastic section. Ed is very just energetic again on Wreckage. I'm thinking, what drugs did they give him to get pepped up like this? But maybe he didn't need them. Maybe it's just all that anticipation boiling up in that hotel room and feeling pretty shitty. We'll react to that when it comes to later. But Ed on Corduroy, let's talk about his guitar tone. Very crisp, transparent, and you were calling it 3D sounding. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so one of the cool things about the software, and I know that some people are going to be, no, this is sacrilege, like you can never use something like software base, and I was one of them. But I had the opportunity to try something that I still own, and you will be surprised of how many options you can get. So Ed is using the same equipment that Mike is using. So everything is based on a Tone Master Pro that is made by Fender. He has two FR12s that they are Tweed that were made for him. Basically the same thing that Mike is using. One of them has Tweed, the other one doesn't. But also he has been using interfaces, and he has been using preamps that is going to add a little bit more to the tone. So he's missing the grit that maybe we heard in previous tours, but the sound is so transparent and crisp that it kind of makes it seem that it's 3D. It's like it's more filling, it's more full, And that's something that he didn't have in the past. Again, some people are going to like it more because I think it adds a different section to what the other two guys are doing. And maybe some other people, it's just like, give me the old beat up tube amp and just play it loud. But I think that it adds something that is unique, even though that it might make kind of like a break in between the fan base. Some people are going to tell you that they really like it. Some people are going to tell you that they don't like it. But I feel that it adds a lot to the mix, and especially because it feels so filling and transparent overall.
Corduroy is fantastic. I Am Mine was originally supposed to be in the spot, but Corduroy got the call up, and I think it was the right move because the crowd is fantastic on it. Just a ton of flair on the song. Love Ed and Mike face to face before the call and response, and Matt's fills on that bridge to build back are just nasty. Ed exclaims, "Here we go!" and Mike tears it apart. Just again, ton of great enthusiasm, and Ed still looks like someone who's not left his hotel room in 10 days. On fire. And going into even flow, classic Mike. But what here makes Mike sound like a guy whose lead singer I had mentioned early on in this podcast, but also had played with another lead singer by the name of Chris Cornell. Why does Mike sound a little like Tom Morello?
This is interesting because since Mike has started to get the partnership with Fender, he has been trying a lot of really cool stuff. Like he's going through his Telecaster phase, like the Telecasters that he's using are completely fascinating. But this one, actually this Fender Strat, the white one he's using, has a kill switch, which basically does this for you kind of thing, which if you know Rage Against the Machine, you can hear Tom Morello. He uses that kind of effect all the time. Basically,
Like that.
Right, that kind of stuff, or like you will kill the sound immediately, and sometimes he will play with that. I never thought that I will see Mike McCready using that kind of guitar, and or with a kill switch included. But I mean, I'll take it, or whatever he wants to try.
This is another South American moment here. Whoa, 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 whoa. And also, you were right. Ed, once again, misses his cue. 1, 2, 1, 2, even. No.
Even no, I screw up the lyrics again. Yeah, he completely missed that one.
Whoops. Well, you know, not every comeback can be perfect, right?
He's forgiven.
Yep. And you know what? I think to make up for it, he wants to get those whoa-who's back going at the end of the song. So this is a fun moment that reminds me of those Buenos Aires crowds. I'm really hoping that they get a show at some point in the future. So this is a good moment here. So Ed, after going around the horn, says that they're going to play this one dedicated to Celia, or as you pronounce Celia. And actually, when listening to this, I totally forgot, but we have her story. Her full story was shared on the reaction episode, not to this show, but to Night 2. Our good friend Eric, he's been a great contributor for us for our website. He's written a lot of our Concertpedia articles, and he was at these shows, and he was helping out with the reaction episodes, and he ran into both Celia and her boyfriend Sam. And we got to learn the story of the letter and why Ed got it to his attention. So you know what? I am just gonna lift it from that. In My Tree is the request, and let's just take a listen to everything.
Up here in my tree, yeah.
Todo lo hizo él.
Sam did everything.
Y no sé, es muy agradecida a la banda porque no me lo esperaba.
I'm very grateful to the band for having done what they did,
La canción significa muchísimo para mí.
and the song is very important to me.
Y creo que ha generado un recuerdo en mi cabeza.
And it left a great memory in my head, in my mind, and
que me sacará de muchos momentos malos.
And it's got me out of a lot of bad situations and a lot of bad moments.
I just want to add, I don't know if anyone in the band, the crew, or just also anyone that loves Pearl Jam hear this, but I'm so grateful, because that song means the world for her, and she means the world for me. I just sent some mail from the 10 Club support and asking if they can pass it to the band. I didn't ask for anything special. I didn't say anything out of the ordinary. We're just normal people, just wanting to hear our favorite song.
You request a song by email.
Yeah, and they took the time to just have her name written and dedicate to her. I'm just so grateful.
I love that, again, like Sam was saying, it was not like some story about like, oh man, she's been through so much. And not to say, like, those stories are always amazing when it happens, but this was just a guy who loves his girlfriend and wanted his girlfriend to hear something that she loved and want her to have an amazing moment. And it got to the band and it said, you know what? Yes. It's just the magic of this band. They're always listening. I know a lot of people want a lot of things for a lot of reasons, but as the little interlude between Waiting for Stevie and Running says, be humble, be mindful, be humble. In My Tree sounds excellent here. Great pick, Celia. And as the next show happened, I believe another one of her favorite songs, Immortality, was played, so she has a very, very good taste there. In My Tree is going to be followed up by Dark Matter and Jeremy. Dark Matter sounds very good, but I'm going to hammer this into your heads, guys. Jeremy. The Best of the Year article is going to come out. And I wrote the section for the Jeremy piece. And it is a wake-up call for all of you that are just like, ugh, I don't like they play their big, massive hit and, run of the mill, whatever. Jeremy is one of their best live songs going. I will still continue to say it. It sounds phenomenal here. The crowd is just in good spirits. And yeah, I mean, it has everything you want. Why would you not want to go to a Pearl Jam? And I can't believe I'm saying this because I know in the past I've sounded more like I don't want to say gatekeeper or anything like that, but like a hardcore fan that wants things changed up. And after you've been to so many shows, you just want powerful performances. You want to remember things. And when you see Jeremy and you see the crowd react to Jeremy, throw your hands up in the air and just get in on the celebration because that's what it is.
Maybe the article is going to teach us to be a little bit more grateful that we can get that song alive. Some people will tell you that it's their beer song or bathroom song, whatever. But when you see the energy that the crowd had for this show and how passionate they were singing along, it changes perspective for sure, like right away.
The hits are hits for a reason. They just are. Yeah, maybe Sad should have been a hit. I agree with that. I would love if in an alternate universe everybody was singing Sad with the band every night, but the reality is Jeremy sparked something. It sparked a generation, to be honest with you. And while Jeremy's the one song that your neighbor knows, your neighbor can be part of this moment. Let's put it that way. Habit, Upper Hand back to back. You hear Ed actively down tuning his guitar before Habit. I don't have too much on this. Post early 2000s Habits, not my favorite. The one thing I think you mentioned was talking about the guitar that Ed uses because he doesn't use it that often. So what is he using here?
Yeah, so this guitar was more common to see it around the 2003 era. As a Gibson Les Paul Double Cut Junior, which, if you have seen the same shape, is because Mike has one from 1959 that is a little like butterscotch with like the tortoise shell guarding. But yeah, he doesn't use that guitar very often, which is always a very nice surprise to me. But I'm with you on that one, man. I mean, Habit for me is just, I don't think it works for me. Now they're playing it so down tune, which is a full step down, so that will make it a C. I will be very intrigued if Queens of the Stone Age makes a cover of Habit. I will listen to that.
Well, I don't know if they want to take the steam away from Mike Watt, but hey, that's I'll listen to the Queens of the Stone Age cover Habit every day of the week. Why the hell not?
Yeah,
So
that'll be fun.
now Ed speaks in Spanish after this as well, and in English, I guess translate it first, and then I'll go over what he says in English. So what does he say in Spanish before the English part that I can translate?
Yeah, absolutely. He says, tengo un deseo para que todos vosotros llegue el día que podamos estar todos juntos. It says, I have a desire that someday is going to come, that the day will come that everybody's going to be together with everybody and everybody's going to be just enjoying themselves in one single big room.
It's interesting what the next quote is because it's kind of ominous knowing the period of time that he uses. He says, 4 years from now, after we move here in December, I will be much more fluent. I wish we had the upper hand. So you kind of put two and two together, and I don't know. But I think even at that time, Biden didn't even drop from the election yet. I thought that was later in July, but I can be mistaken.
Yeah,
So
maybe he knew something that we didn't know.
he has inside knowledge to the White House. I mean, he's
Right.
hung out with the Bidens before, so
Right.
yeah.
I mean, why not? Maybe he was trying to figure out how to control the weather. Okay, don't get me going. Don't get me going.
All right. Well, upper hand follows that up, and then after upper hand, we'll get into the end of the main set here. Josh, on the beginning, he's using that keyboard, and it's kind of like a Moog sound, the way that he's utilizing it. And the beginning almost sounds so high pitched that it's kind of like a kazoo. So that's a pre-recorded loop, right?
Yes, you have two things there actually. The pre-recorded loop, the first one is the one that you hear in the intro, like it. That is by the Tensor Red Panda that he's using on his rig right now. But in the keyboard, he is playing like that kazoo sound, and then he will kind of like alter the pitch. There's a little ball on the left side of the keyboard that you can go up or down, and then you can alter the pitch of the tone of the whatever you're playing in the keyboard. And I mean, the options are endless. He can recreate any sounds that he needs. But what was fascinating to me is when we were watching the recording, it's just you underestimate how much he does just for like a minute, just to establish all the layers that the intro needs for Ed and for Mike and for Stone, because they don't do much compared to what he's doing in the back, you know?
Yeah, it was a great angle for that too, because it was from Stone's side. It was kind of like a high upper angle, and you get Josh like right in that top right corner, and the amount of equipment that he has can rival a local music shop almost. There's so much behind there. There's a couple of different keyboards. He usually has at least one or two guitars back there, probably cycling in and out. It really is fascinating what he can do, and just in sound wise, obviously upper hand is one where he has more of an impact than others, but usually what he's doing is so just filling in those gaps. And I don't want to say minimal because it just helps out, but you're not paying attention to him back there. And I think that's the purpose of it. So it works. And the song itself, I think this is another one from last week that I was kind of like, they still needed a little bit of work on. But again, energy different, looseness. It feels like this was way more in his element, and very clearly it's Mike shining at the end. The whole song felt complete. Okay, guys, this is one of my favorite little things that Pearl Jam does, and this hadn't been done in over 400 shows. So Ed, before this, goes up to the crowd and he gives one of the guys in the crowd a pick. I'm like, okay. And I remember, I don't know if I was watching the feed at this time because I feel like I remember afterwards because I saw on the set list that Better Man was happening, and then somebody just out of nowhere was like, oh, Romanza. I'm like, no. It wasn't just and Romanza, it was fucking Romanza. I mean, if you've heard us cover this song before, you know that, oh my goodness, I freaking love this intro. It's just beautiful. This had to be a split-second decision to play this here because Ed is finger-picking it, and he doesn't go off on it for as long. Like, it feels like there was a little bit more that he could have extended on it, but just the fact that it was there, that you heard it, that we get its presence after the last time it being Mexico City in 2005. Just this beautiful little Spanish guitar song, and I can't get enough of it. It's one of the great little things that got lost a little bit after the 2000 tour. Just beautiful before Better Man.
I'm just going to throw it out there to the universe. If Ed feels inspired by Spanish-speaking crowds, maybe they need to get their asses back to South America and he can play the fucking intro as many times as he fucking wants. That's everything I'm going to say.
So, on one side, it's a begging for Atlanta and Atlanta shows, and that happens. And then on the other side, it's begging for South America. And now we need that to happen. I guess I don't live in Hartford anymore, but I would love to see another Hartford show. I'd be there. But I don't know, maybe I have to beg for it too. Everybody has shit they want, right?
That's right, yeah.
Anyway, so Better Man is great, and I'm going to tee up Better Man and kind of evolve into Porch here because our good friend Jason Brown is right up in the front, and watching him on video during Better Man, he's pointing to the ground. It looks like some picks might have been thrown on the ground, and he's getting security guards. He's like, I want some of those picks, man. I want some of those picks. And I don't know if he took them for himself or if he gave them to somebody else in the crowd, but he was definitely he had his eyes on it. I was noticing that, Jason. I was noticing that. And I'm sure he's laughing at that right now. But Jason comes up in Porch as well. And this is going to be something that you want to hear too. It's less about performance. And I think you guys know all about Porch. As you mentioned last night, Cameron is filthiness, I think I wrote down for you.
We should include more filthy fills right now. I know people don't like them, but we should.
Your wish is my command. Fails! so many patrons over that, right?
We'll live.
Kidding you guys. I'm kidding. So the real deal here is that there's a situation going on right as they're about to get back into the big ending, about to get into the chorus. And you can see that there's what I thought were EMTs, but it's security. They're all wearing orange jackets. And you can see them all kind of rushing to around like the middle to sort of Stone side. And Jason is talking to them, and you see a couple of people like point their fingers. So immediately I text Jason and I'm like, Jason, do you remember? And he's like, no. I have so many Pearl Jam memories, I believe he said. And I'm like, all right, look at this point in the video. He's like, oh yeah, I remember this. Yeah, of course. So here's what he said. And this is exactly his quote. It says, naked guy causing problems, very incoherent, pushed his way up and pushed some girl. Oh, okay. So that's a thing. That's a thing that happened. And that's one of those things you don't get from a bootleg, you don't get from a set list. So this is true insight of what's happening at a Pearl Jam show here. Naked guy at a Pearl Jam show. Yeah, don't see that every day. And I don't think that Ed really got sight of it either. And it was very, very tough. So we spent a lot of time going back and forth, like frame by frame in this video, trying to figure out where this happened. And you had a better eye than I did on it. So kind of explain, if somebody wants to go and watch, there's a full video on YouTube. Just search Barcelona 2024 for July 6th. Full video. Head to about an hour and 35 minutes in, and you'll see once it gets to like 20 to 30 seconds around that area. What should they be looking for?
Besides a naked dude?
Well, it's hard to see naked dude, so, they need a little direction, right?
Well, if there's something that you can learn out of this podcast besides how to find naked people in a crowd, try to find...
Where's Naked Waldo?
Right. Like, actually, we should do a contest or something like that. If somebody finds it, just write us an email and we'll send you a sticker or something like that. But you can see it briefly. Just kind of look for the hair, because at the beginning you're like, oh, that's kind of like a lady or something like that. But then you notice that there's so much hair moving around, and then just follow up the people that they're pointing at it, and then you'll see it that he slowly starts to walk right next to a guy with a blue t-shirt and a Cubs hat, which is Jason. And there's the naked guy for you. So if you can find it, seriously, we'll send you a sticker. My word.
Wasn't it the guy in the green shirt that you want to look out for, right?
Yes, he was right behind the guy in the green shirt, and then he will slowly start to walk towards the EMTs or safety, security, whatever. And then I think he gets sent to the back. But those are the two cues that, yeah, like, please get yourself dressed, stop being naked, and then just go back to the show and enjoy it, kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can't see how naked, so of course I had to ask Jason how naked, and he says, down to the briefs, and those weren't clean for weeks, if you hear me. It's a 50 or 60-year-old man, guys, and when you get sight of him, he's barking back at security like, I'm allowed to do that. I don't know what the dialogue is, but it sounds like he's like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm naked.
Yeah, which is even more disturbing to think about, because just please get yourself dressed, like right now.
Bare my ass. Take a good look.
That's the new lyric right there.
If Ed knew, Ed would. Trust me. All right, that's how you get into the encore. Let's pause for station identification and talk about a few things for a few minutes. I want to give a huge shout out for Patreon wise to one of our near and dear friends, one of our best friends, as I should say, somebody that we got to know so well over the years that we got to spend a lot of time with in Seattle. We stayed in the house together. Mar Vigil joined up on our Horizon Leg tier, and it's just so wonderful that she's able able to make that contribution and help. I know she's such a supportive piece to this podcast, and I really just want to send her a very heartfelt thank you. And Mar, if you don't know, was a very, very early contributor to this podcast in that she had an episode request for us. And I will say that that episode request doesn't count towards her Horizon Leg episode request that she's owed here. So we'll get and she's been to a ton recently too. So we'll get a good one from her and some good stories. And she has multiple good stories and a profile episode for her as well. So Mar, we thank you so much. It's just we love the support. And we know we have it from you emotionally, and financially is just that's a cherry on top. So thank you so much. So, as mentioned, Horizon Leg, Giga Leg, those are the tiers that you want to join up on if you want to have an episode covered in the future on this podcast from a show that you went to. And a lot of these episodes that we've done from requests have been shows that we're not looking that deeply into. Not the most popular shows in the world, not full album shows, not stadium shows. It's usually, hey, Pearl Jam came to my town, and maybe it's just a town that we have not considered in a year that we are looking to other shows in. And we love doing those shows because it expands our mind. It opens our catalog a little bit more. So if there is something that you're thinking about, all you got to do is head over and join on the Giga Leg tier for $5 a month, or if you join on the Horizon Leg tier for $10 a month, you will get a profile episode as well. We know we owe some people some profile episodes in 2025, and pretty much at this point, we can very close to guarantee that everybody that has a request at this point will get it done in 2025. It's taken us a very long time to get to everything, but we are almost at everything. So we're very excited to get some more stories for you very, very early on. We'd love to get them out of the way January, February, and just do them very early on in the year. So you'll see a lot of that in the beginning of the year for this podcast. And yeah, if you want to join up on that, patreon.com/live-on-4legs, or you can go and download the Patreon app if that's easier for you to listen to the episodes on. Patreon app, search for Live on 4 Legs, and then liveon4legs.com. You can just go there. We're going to have the best of the year. It's the top 50 of the year piece that's coming out in about a week's time. And I'll get to that. That kind of ties in with something else in a second, but that will be on liveon4legs.com coming very, very soon, as well as a become a patron button that's right at the top. You can click that, you can join, and you're gravy. Now, as it comes to the top 50, mentioned the last couple weeks that we haven't made the best of the year pieces. We haven't turned that into a podcast yet, which feels ridiculous. Why have we not done that? I don't know, because we want to distribute content in other places. But guess what? We can and we will. And in the way that we're going to do it is we're going to have a lot of people talk on our holiday party. We're going to have our holiday party on the 19th. If you've been before, you know how much fun it is. We just have such a great time, and it's a good way for a lot of people that like this podcast or within this community that might not get a chance to meet us at the shows and get to know us. It's a good opportunity to just hang out and become, part of our crew. We're just open people, and we love, meeting new people and just becoming friends with everybody. So that's an opportunity for just everybody to get together and, old friends meet old friends, new friends meet old friends. It's just an amazing time. And that'll be over Zoom. You'll get the Zoom information on social media, or if you're listening to this right now, you can always email us at liveon4legspodcast@gmail.com, the number 4, not the word 4, and we'll get you set up in the right direction. We'll send you a link, but that is on next week, Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We will have the party. We will celebrate. What we'll do is we'll talk about the best of the year for the episode, because that's when the top 25, it'll be in 2 pieces. On Monday, part number 1, 50 through 26 will come out. And then on Thursday, during the party, we will release the top 25 of the year, We will all discuss, talk about our favorite moments, and that will become our episode. That is the end of the year episode that we usually do. Kind of now is a combination of the Hall of Fame episode as well. So that'll be, I believe, a New Year's Eve type thing. But also I'll have some documentary footage. I'll put together like my highlights, best of the year stuff. As I mentioned before with Alison, the Philadelphia one is probably on YouTube right now if you want to go and check that out. I worked really hard on it, so hope you guys will check it out and see what it did. But there will be like a highlight reel of all the big fun stuff that we did this year that will play at the party, and that should be exciting. So I hope to see everybody there. Yeah, I'll see you there. You'll be in South America, but we'll still see you there, right?
Yes, I'm assuming so. Whatever plan it is, I'm gonna be moving across the country for a little bit, but yeah, I'll try my best. If not, I'll record something just to send a message and say thank you, basically. But yeah,
Yeah, you'll be there. You'll be there. We'll make sure. I'll send a message to the Prime Minister of Chile.
or the president.
Oh, well, yeah, him too. All right. So back to the rock. Javi, you noticed the Chilean flag in the crowd. Now, this
Yeah.
comes back into play a little later, right? This is not your friend, right?
No. I think the Chilean flag is the guy he ended up playing the song with them on night 2.
Yes. Right. The Ledbetter performance, right?
Correct. Correct. I think that's him because later on you can see that he throws it and Mike grabs the flag. And I think that's how the story goes. It's just like the message was written on the flag. And he let the band know, and he asked about the wine because he got wine for the band as a gift, or for Ed specifically. And I think he was asking about like, hey, do you like the wine? And could I play a song with you? I'll be there in night 2. And everybody knows how the story ends. So
Right.
pretty cool.
When we cover night 2, we'll get to that story. But Ed's out there by himself, as usual, says hello. He eggs on all sections of the crowd, and he's creating a little competition between everybody in the front and the sides. And then Ed kind of talks about how the crowd is making a perfect wave for this band. And that gets into a solo performance of Just Breathe. And yeah, we know, no bass, substance is a little lost. It sucks to have to like gloss over. And I guess what we can say here is that if you're thinking about wording and you're thinking about what we talked about before with Alison, breathing, Just Breathe may be played because maybe one of these things where he's thinking about when he's sick in that hotel, he just needs to breathe, stay calm, and get his breath back to full capacity. I don't know. I might be coming up with shit, but I think a little bit of that ties into what the next moment is. So you hear the Wasted Reprise bed that Boom is playing, and Ed gets to the microphone, is very choked up, and it's a moment of vulnerability that we have not seen with him in a very long time, talking about a very dark subject and really shining a light on what happens to him at this show. So take a listen.
So I just it a couple of us, there's, I don't even know what to say, but, let me just say that the last week, it almost felt like a near-death experience. It was very uncomfortable, and it got frightening, and it was like a chest bronchitis. It was something that it felt like maybe you couldn't breathe, and maybe you wouldn't make it through the night, and maybe you'd have to go to the hospital, and maybe you, And a few of us had to, it just felt, you just realize how precious this life is, how lucky we are to have been living on a planet where we could go around and play to incredible people, like the people in this room here tonight. And so it was a poignant experience. I won't be forgetting it anytime soon, and we won't be forgetting tonight anytime soon. I have faced it, a life wasted. I am never going back again. Having tasted a life wasted, I am never going back again. I escaped it, a life wasted. I'm never going back again.
You just don't know what somebody's going through when you're on the other side of things. Like, we can sit here all day and just be like, hey, well, the big thing that really pissed me off this past year was that when they canceled London, and the whole idea was that, oh, the tickets situation, they canceled because they couldn't sell enough tickets. I'm like, no, they would never fucking do that. But people insisted that that was the case. Like, I remember I got published in the Rolling Stone, not the magazine, but the website. A quote of mine got published saying, I'll paraphrase here, but saying, if you thought that this had anything to do with lack of ticket sales after listening to this, I don't want to know you as a fan anymore. Because this is as powerful and as vulnerable as you'll get from him. He says, near-death experience. I mean, you know, again, it goes back to, you think of these guys as heroes, and they're just other human beings. They're no different. They have the same body parts, the same organs, the same brain cells. They just are very, very skilled at what they do and use their power to make people happy. And he is so committed to that, as we talked about. He's so committed to wanting to make the people happy, and knows the power of his music can do that, can be used in cathartic ways. And almost he's, in a sense, maybe saying it for himself here too, because he says we're very lucky to be living on a planet where we can go around and play to incredible people like the people here in this room tonight. And if there's any moment to take away from this show, this is without a doubt it. And dare I say, the greatest wasted reprise of all time, because it's not just him doing the intro. He's really stretching the vocals, and he's proving once again that this was no fluke. I'm back at 100%.
And my favorite thing is just, again, the performance is absolutely outstanding, but and I want to be very responsible by saying this, but I don't think we appreciate enough the fact that somebody wants to be so transparent with the audience, and he's telling you the story, what he went through, for us to understand into certain capacity. I don't want to say forgive, but understand why they have to suspend or cancel shows, which we shouldn't be asking for an explanation. Yeah, we're the consumer, but like you said, they're human beings and they struggle with things as we do. But just to have the balls to go up there and just sing your heart out and tell the story of what happened, and just not to be afraid of maybe negative feedback, speaks volumes.
And that's why we're all connected with this band, is because they can come out there and speak the truth, letting us into their soul. You know, that's how we connect as people. I don't know. I've been in situations before where you kind of have friends and you go to a bar and you go meet up with a friend at the bar and you both head to the bar and like you're together, but you're apart. You're like not talking about anything that has any substance. You're not connecting. You're both getting away from something, but you're getting away from it together, but you're not there together. You're just kind of just there. And I think that's where we kind of struggle as human beings sometimes is to understand how to connect. And I will say one of the reasons why I connect so well with this band is because that they've helped me become a person that can connect with people, that can have the kind of friendships that I've developed with people like you and so many others that we've met over the years. Like, I've never had a stronger group of friends in my entire life that I've connected with on this level. Usually, my friends in the past have been like, again, drinking buddies, work buddies. You know, you talk about your wife and your kids a little bit, but it's not much more deeper than that. But I think, in like a serious sense here, the band and their ability to connect has, I hope, taught a lot of us about how to do that as well. It's a really rewarding thing, and I hope that they understand that aspect, that what they're doing is so much more important than just actually doing it. So, got a couple more songs here. Do the Evolution and Setting Sun, kind of an interesting combo. Evolution, Ed's really trying to bring back the South American chants. He wants them so bad.
Extend it, extend it. Come on.
They don't sound bad. It ain't Buenos Aires. It ain't Santiago. He goes the extra round on. He's like, one more time. And that's usually the case when he gets to the big crowds and they're really doing it. But man, this crowd could have been a lot better on it, I think.
I want to say one more time, guys, you have 4 days left of Pearl Jam days and Christmas, whatever that thing is.
I mean, at this time, probably as this airs, it's probably over, right?
Yeah. Announce it. You want to hear it? Announce it. Go down there and people will sing it for you. That's everything I want to say about that.
You don't have to try, right? So, Setting Sun, look, the conversation is, this is our closer. This is the closer of the year. And this is at the point where I'm sure we're starting to say, like really here and not at the end? Well, why is that? It works so well at the end. Why would you do that? And I don't know. I don't know if they want a different impact for a different crowd or not, but I mean, I don't know. Here's what I think. And another reason to add to and I kind of mentioned this last week a little bit, like why Setting Sun works so well. And I'll expand upon that. It's the Let Us Not Fade. And it's the ending the show with that last word of wisdom. The album closers all seem to have a line like that. Not every single one, but like a line that kind of leaves a question in your head at the end of the record, makes you kind of expands your mind a little bit. Like, indifference is a perfect one. How much difference does it make? It's powerful. And you can even go further. The scream my lugs out till it fills in this room. Like, there are lines to be repeated. And I'll say tattoo lines that these are. Let's go to Inside Job. How I choose to feel is how I am. That's a line that is so impactful now that people understand what that means. And it means so much more than just being words in a song. You go to a song like Future Days, Days of You and Me, like those are, again, tattoo quotes. River Cross has it too, with the share the light, don't hold us down. This band is known for utilizing, and Ed so specifically utilizing their words in such a way to reach their audience and grab them by the heartstrings. And that's why this song works so well at the end, because lyrically, it's what you need in order for your soul and your heart to feel full at the end of a Pearl Jam show. And that's what they do to finish up an album. And that's why the album enders work so well, because they have that one thing to grab onto. And I think that's the same exact reason why Setting Sun is just perfect for that spot. Unfortunate, still works in front of a live, but we'll say it till the cows come home. This is our closer of the year.
Yeah, it needs to go back to the closer spot. That's where it works best. But to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we get it as an opener in the next leg. You never know.
Wow. If we get in as an opener, it's like, where do we go from here?
Right.
That's really tough. And that's another thing. It's tough to follow up on that. Like,
Uh-huh.
I almost don't want to celebrate after that. I just want to be like content in my domain, you know? Like, yeah, alive, sure. Okay. Yay. Hey. Like, yeah, do all the things, but I want Setting Sun to just be the lasting imprint.
Yeah, and especially because it's for the meaning that it has behind. But something that I've learned in the past couple of years is just not discard a single thing. But I agree with you. If you allow me to go back to the first thought, it's the perfect closer. And I just, like you said, we're going to continue to shout the same thing. I just don't understand why it's not being used as a closer anymore. I just don't get it.
I mean, those emails got to be sent, right?
We need to send an email with two things. One, don't get naked in a rock show. Two, use Setting Sun as a closer, please. Please.
Or we'll get naked at a rock show if you use Setting Sun as the closer.
That's better. And you're going to have a lot of naked people on a rock show if you don't use it as a closer, so it's going to be even worse.
Oh my God. So we're all just going to be naked.
Yeah, why not? Get Setting Sun as a closer and go to South America. That's all we're asking. That's it.
We don't have a lot of requests. I mean, they played Brandon J, so, we're good. I'm good.
Just a few. Just a few.
Alive, Baba, and then say goodbye. You said for Alive, Fender on steroids? So what does that mean?
So one of the things that I've really tried to do this year is I've tried to figure it out without any sort of inside information, because I really like to trust my ears too. What's Mike emulating from the Tone Master? Because, guys, if you don't know what it is, you just have a computer at your feet that you can select every single possible amp that you can think of. Like, the options are endless. That thing sounds like something that is very, very heavily Fender based, but what kind of Fender is it? And I think it's a mix of maybe a Fender and something else that is being emulated to play, because when he plays it in a live, combined with the tuba screamer, yes, he went back to a tuba screamer, even though that physically he doesn't have one on his pedal board, but that is a tuba screamer in the back. It's just magic to me. It sounds so freaking good. It's just like it gets dirty, but you can understand every single lick, even at the speed that he's playing it. So yeah, it's like Fender on steroids, using drugs, about to get naked in a rock show. How about that description?
I mean, yes, we have to end the show with some kind of hardcore nudity, rock and roll. Let's throw. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that we said naked one more time, we're going to get censored, but that's okay. Naked.
I mean, we say shit all the time.
True.
But naked shit, ooh, we're in trouble.
Yeah. PG-13. PG-13.
So Baba closes it out. You can tell how relieved and how thankful this band is, and just, again, party atmosphere. And that Chilean flag you were talking about before gets thrown onto the stage, so we know that that's the next cog to that point of the story. But as they end the show and they bow and they say goodbye, it says some final words before obviously going back in 2 days. There's no words to say thank you as much as we feel, but I'll try. I'll just bow to you. Thank you. And then Olay chants will follow that up. That is a good show right there. Let's pick some moments. I'll kick us off here. I'm going to say that my number 3 is going to be Scared of Fear. I really got a good kick out of Scared of Fear at this show. Nice little boost up for that song because I think I was a little down on it after last week. My number 2, Nothingman, impressed me very early on after all of what happened, and he can come out there and just swing away on Nothingman. Yeah, I'm in. I'm sold. And then I think the moment from the show is, as I like to call, reprise wasted, because I mean, the speech, the vulnerability, that's the best thing about Ed, is that he brings you into his life and makes you a part of it. So yeah, that's my list.
My list, number 3 is Wreckage, because I'm a sucker for that song. I like it even more each day. I don't know
Talk about it
why.
a lot today either. It was
Yeah.
kind of left off a little bit.
Yeah, but I just like it. I just love what Stone does in that song, and I think it's just beautiful. I want to get criticism over that, but it's okay. I'll take it. My number 2 is Wasted Reprise, and my number 1 is Scare of Fear. I really like the Scare of Fear version that we got on the show.
Very, very close here. Yeah, we're just like
Mhm.
one song off. That's not too bad. Now it comes down to the rating, and I really enjoyed watching and listening to this. I enjoyed the experience, first of all, and we have to do this more often. And one of the things that we talked about, and I think will be a Patreon exclusive for the future for all of you that want to get excited about it, is that we will do watch alongs and maybe invite some people along to watch a show with us sometimes. And this is how we've been doing our notes, and we'll record ourselves doing it, and it can be a thing. So keep that in mind for the future. If you like new content, we're going to have tons of new changes coming in 2025, and that could be a big one when it comes to content wise. But the cogs are working here. We're thinking about new things. So yeah, hopefully that's something that we can kind of muster up whenever there is a show that has a good video recording, and we can do that on. I was very impressed, and even more so after hearing Alison talk about the routine that Ed would have to go through and how much care he gives to his voice. Like, they could have gone out there and he could have just been like, "Yep, good enough," and it would have been fine, and people would have been like, "Yeah, it's tough because he just had bronchitis," but because he got himself to 100%, and because the performances were all just top notch, a 9.5 is right where I am at this show. I was just really impressed by it. I think it's better than you even would consider it being.
I have the same rating because the easiest choice would have been, you know what? We're going to play safe. We're going to down tune, half step everything, and that's it, right? Or let's just go play the hits. None of that happened. And I have a profound respect for the band, even more that I've already felt for all these years. But it's just the fact that they went and they played stuff that maybe you were not expecting that they were going to play it, and the way that they did it. And it was a huge statement. And I think as a fan, even though that I was not in that show, it means a lot because I know people who was there, and I know that they were so, so grateful and so happy because they got the band back that they love so much, and the amount of respect that they had for them after that night, it was huge. So I'm in a 9.5 too.
All right. Well, I mean, that's pretty good standing right there. That is the Hall of Extremely Very Good, not the Hall of Fame, but I mean, next week is going to be a really good discussion, guys. Again, I've been kind of like, hey, see you next week. You'll hear something next week, but I think you kind of get the gist of what's happening. This was the show everybody came out of saying, this is the one from the year. This is the number one show of the year. Philadelphia Night One. That's what we're doing next week. I don't care. I'll say it because I came up with my own rules. I will break them. So we're hoping to get some friends on next week too to help us talk about it, because this is really a show that's about friends, being there with friends and friends kind of picking you up when you need to be picked up and looking out for you. So we're hoping that we're joined by some friends. And again, that's another thing. The podcast is just going to have a lot more friends on it from now on. I think we want experience, we want community, and I think there are a lot of our friends that deserve to be on this podcast more often. So I think look forward to that when it comes to 2025. I think that'll be very exciting. So yeah, Philly Night One next week. So yes, again, you get to hear the whole Brain of Jay story again, but guess what? You fuckers voted for it, so it's your fault. All right. You knew it was coming, so. But if you like this episode, we thank you for tuning in. Some of you might be tuning in for the first time, and I just want to say thank you very much and welcome. I hope we put a good impression on you. We had a lot of fun things to talk about today. We had an amazing conversation with Alison, the voice queen, and when there's an opportunity to talk to her again, I really hope that we get to, and she seems very excited to be a part of that. So yeah, let's give a big round of applause for her. And if you are not subscribed to us on any of your favorite podcast platform that you listen on, please make sure that you do subscribe so you know when the next Philadelphia Night One episode comes out. Yeah, it's Wednesday, but hey, there's a lot of things going on this time of year. It's Christmas, right? It's Hanukkah. It's Kwanzaa. It's shit. Got to get all my shit done before 2025 starts. It's a lot of stuff. So we don't want you to think about the next time a podcast episode comes out. We just want you to make sure that you have a notification that tells you that it's coming. You can do that Apple, you can do that Spotify, you can do that wherever else you'd like. YouTube. Those are the places that we think we get the most views on. So just be a part of that. Or hey, if you go to a place that maybe you get even less views, then sure, that'll help there. That'll help us boost that podcast platform as well. But also, if you get the chance, 5-star ratings are very important. It'll help us in the algorithm, and it'll tell us that you guys really enjoy what we're doing. So we're very grateful for that. And then a comment whenever possible. Just let the people know who are looking for Pearl Jam content, who are looking at this podcast, being like, is it any good? Comment, let people know what you think. And that does so much to help. Goes a long way in this long journey of Pearl Jam. So that is that. I'm very excited for next week. I'm very excited for the holiday party coming up. It's just, big things happening here in Live on Four Legs Land. So that being said, this may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer, although we may be parting ways. Miss you already. Miss you always. Soon, the whole world will be different. Soon, the whole world will be really bad. Soon, the whole world will be different. Soon. Philly Night One. Soon. See you on the pod.
Don't get naked in rock shows.
Let us not fail. Let us not fail. Let us not fail. There's no words to say thanks as much as we feel. But I'll try. I'll just bow to you. Thank you.